All right, thank you all for taking time out of your day to attend our webinar. I know a lot of you have many different things you could be doing right now, so we do appreciate that. We know that your time is very important to you. We are very excited about this new release. In fact, this is the largest webinar that we've ever held, as this is the biggest release that we've ever come up with. And so the reporting and dashboarding feature in Project Team is something that we are very excited about and hope you see and feel the same way today as well. It is a big differentiator for us. Most project management applications do not have the report and dashboard available, the functionality at least, and if they do, it's usually through a third-party tool, okay, and it comes as an extra added cost. This is not the case with Project Team. In fact, it's just a functionality that is included as a part of the system. So my name again is Patrick Nolan, and I'm one of the sales managers here at Project Team. And it's going to be myself on the webinar today, as well as my colleague Josh Whitmer, who's the product manager, and he is going to be primarily running through the information with you and taking you through a live demonstration of the reports and dashboard features within Project Team. We are social, so feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. We will be live tweeting during this webinar, so you can follow along and interact with us on Twitter. I will say that if you're tweeting to us, please make sure to use hashtag Project Team Webinar, and feel free to ask questions if you do not want to wait until the end of the webinar. You will have an opportunity for a Q&A at the end. For the purpose of this webinar, everybody has been muted, but at the very end, we're going to open it up for questions and answers. But like I mentioned, if you want to ask questions while we're going through the information, feel free to live tweet us. And I do want to point out that this webinar is being recorded, and it will be uploaded to both YouTube and our Project Team website for future reference. This way you can go back and watch the webinar again if you need to do so, or feel free to send the link to anyone you know who was not able to attend today. So today's agenda, reports versus dashboards. What is the difference? Really, when it comes to data entry, it's not about the information that you're putting into the system, although that's obviously very important, but it's also about the information that you're getting out of the system, which is just as important, if not more so. And so we will be discussing the benefits of each, and we're going to be also providing a live demonstration of our reporting and dashboard feature, which Josh will be driving and again, answering questions along the way. And I will say, as I alluded to it earlier, we're going to be answering those questions. Everyone will be muted, however, for the purpose of this webinar, just so we can run through things seamlessly. Please feel free, though, to ask the questions in the question box. It should be in your chat on the GoToWebinar, and we will do our best to address each and every one of the questions towards the end of the webinar. And so with that being said, I'm going to now turn it over to Josh, and he is going to begin this webinar, and we look forward to it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Patrick. Like Patrick said, this is the biggest webinar that we've had to date so far, and it kind of makes sense because the reports and dashboards features that we actually released last night has been the biggest release that we've made probably since we first started. So we're definitely very excited about that. Before I get into the demo of kind of the reports and dashboards area within Project Team, I do want to do a little bit of an overview of what are reports, what are dashboards, some of the common misconceptions of those two topics, and then kind of give you some basics about each one of those. So the word reporting is often used to describe both reports and dashboards, but there are some key differences that all of us should be aware of. What do we think of when we hear the word reports? I know when I hear the word reports, I think of lists, so large lists of information. I think of pages and pages of information that might come from a project. Sometimes, for example, that might be like a list of all the different contractors that you have on a project. And on some projects, maybe that's not so large, but other projects that can be huge. That list might contain phone numbers and emails and fax numbers, all of the above. Another example might be submittals. Some projects might have over thousands of submittals, ordered in different ways, maybe broken up by ball and court or responsible party, things like that. Those are all examples of reports. So when we hear the word reports, we'll think of large lists. And then what do we think of when we hear the word dashboards? I know when I think of dashboards, I think of colors. I think of charts. I think of lines. I think of circles. And one of the other really nice things about dashboards as opposed to reports, especially in a cloud-based app like ProjectTeam, is that we can introduce some interactivity for those things. So we might be able to click into a dashboard and get more information about what maybe a column of that bar chart says. For example, if we have like a submittal status chart, we might see things that are overdue. We can click into that bar, and it'll give us a nice list of everything that is overdue. So real quick, to continue along those lines, just some quick bullet points about what are reports. Reports are generally text or table-based, and again, they contain a large amount of data. Again, think of like a submittal log. You have over 1,000 submittals. All those things are sorted by something like an item number, but they do take up a lot of information. Sometimes reports can contain visuals. Okay, maybe at the top of the report you include a simple bar chart, a pie chart, or some kind of summary information. Reports can be great because you can set things up like scheduled distribution. Maybe, for example, you'd like your RFIs or some new drawing report, and you want that to be sent out to your architect or your owner every Monday at, say, 9 a.m. because you typically have a meeting at 10. So that would mean that I create a report, I like the way this thing works, I have filters and sorts on it, and maybe just showing some detailed information about a specific topic. And instead of having to manually go into ProjectTeam to find that information and then print it out, I could do something like schedule this report to be sent, again, every day at 9 a.m. Like we mentioned before, reports can contain a lot of information, and then they do typically range multiple pages. And then finally, depending on your skill level and needs, reports can be very simple or it can get extremely complex. So really the sky is the limit when it comes to reporting and the different types of things that you can do. Next, we'll do a quick overview of some dashboards. So dashboards offer a quick look at your data opposite to, say, a large list of information. Those quick looks usually help you in decision making, allowing you to look at a certain topic and make quick decisions off of that instead of having to look at a whole bunch of information that you could get bogged down with. Dashboards are typically built to have everything on a single screen. That's why it's easy to find the information very quickly. You can just look at, and we'll kind of show some examples of this once we get into the ProjectTeam demo, but we'll look at a single screen. We might scroll a little bit, but usually everything is on one thing. And because we have a visualization of that, when we don't have some long list or table, it's kind of easier to read and make those decisions. For dashboards, it's typically helpful once you look at something to be able to drill down into that data if possible. So for example, if you have a bar graph that shows status of your submittals, again, you might see that bar is very high, indicating that you have a lot of overdue items, but it's nice to be able to click into, say, that bar and drill into that information. And again, as I mentioned before, dashboards, one of the really nice things that you can do with a cloud-based system is interact with that information. So not only are you getting something that is a printout that somebody puts it on your desk and you see some of that, those colors or that chart, whatever it is, when you're looking at a system, you have that added benefit of being able to click into that. Maybe I don't like the way a visualization works. I don't like the pie chart look on this one. I want to turn that into a bar chart. It should be very simple to be able to do that type of thing. So in summary, there are some differences between the word dashboards and reports. So dashboards is really focused on what? Dashboards are really focused on decision driving. Okay, you get in, you want to look at something quickly. It gives you a quick look at information at a summary type of view, and you can make a decision off of that information. Opposite to that, reports are really focused on what? Reports are really focused on informing. It gives you a lot of information that you might need to take a little bit. You might need to sit down and read through a lot of information, but it did give you a little bit more detail as opposed to dashboards. Although in some cases, dashboards will allow you to kind of deep dive into some information, but usually it starts kind of at a summary level. Some of the things that we come out of the box with, or we have out of the box with our project team reports and dashboards are kind of set up for you. So if you guys are a client right now, you might have noticed that when you log in today, you do have a big reports button within each one of your projects, okay? So you can click on that and you see a list of all those different reports. Those things are created out of the box for you, okay? But then we also get questions about ad hoc reporting. And what is ad hoc reporting? So the meaning of ad hoc reporting is that it is designed for a particular purpose, and then often it doesn't have much planning, right? So if you're really creating a detailed report, you want to sit down and you want to think about the information you're going to get across. You want to think about things like your audience, which we'll go through in a second, and some different items. An ad hoc report is maybe I'm going into a meeting, I need to very quickly create something, I want to drag and drop some information onto my screen, and then I'll be able to do that. Along with that, ad hoc reporting allows for reports to be easily built without needing development resources. As we know, some reports, depending on the complexity of those things, can get very detailed, and the more detailed a report is, the more development resources you might need. Okay? In the past, people have used things like crystal reports or other reporting type tools that as you get in, you do need kind of a PhD in reporting to be able to do those things. In Project Team, we try to keep the creation of reports very simple, but obviously as you get more complex, you might need to take a couple more classes or do a couple more things to get that knowledge. An ad hoc report, though, is something that should be done pretty quickly. You might want to just drag and drop, again, a table or a chart over to your form. You want to print that out and take it over to your boss or whoever it is. This next section here is just a couple best practices. So we're about 15 minutes into this webinar, and I hope that this webinar takes about 45 minutes. So we're going to take the next 5 or 10 minutes here and just talk about some best practices before we actually get into looking at reports and dashboards inside of Project Team. So the best practices for your reports. I have 6 key features here. We'll go into a little bit of detail for each one of these, but at a high level, we'll say that we want to know our target audience. Obviously, different people within your projects, especially in construction, have different levels of information that they want to track, that they want to see, that even they're interested in. So the first key that we're going to keep in mind is we want to know our target audience. 2 is tell a clear story. What does that mean? Obviously, when we're creating large amounts of information, things can get very messy very quickly. A lot of times, to keep something simple, it does take a lot of thought. There is some complexity in trying to keep things simple. So number 2 here, just tell a clear story. That means think about what we're doing. Let's make a hierarchy of that information, allowing users to drill down into specific needs, but at a high level, they have summary information and it's easy to use. Number 3, highlight the key messages. You're making a report for some reason, right? So we want to highlight that some reason and make it clear for that end user to know what message you're trying to get across. Number 4, layer the information. Again, we want to create hierarchies of information, especially with filters and sorts and things like that, that we can easily show what the information that we're trying to get across is. If we want to sort, if we want to make a custom filter on something, we should be able to do that. But that should be layered so we're not necessarily taking all the information away if we need to do that. Number 5, illustrate the story. We obviously are trying to tell a clear story, and then we need to illustrate that. The story of our information is, what is the status of my submittals? In some ways, giving a long list of that information is beneficial. But in other ways, if I just show a quick bar chart that shows a huge bar for overdue and something small for things that have been submitted, then I can very quickly illustrate the story that I'm trying to get across, that we're having problems with our submittals. Finally, number 6, take advantage of online. Again, we have online resources to be able to help you, and also using online reports allows you to do some of those interactive things like clicking and drilling into information. if I go into knowing my target audience, again, we're in construction. Different users need different information. Executives may want more of an overall dashboard, so you hear the term executive dashboards a lot, while field personnel want something more specific. A field personnel might just want to report on a single form, right? While an executive might want all the forms as a whole. In our case, in ProjectTeam, I don't know if a lot of you guys, the existing users, have used it, but one of the earlier releases we had this year was all about workflow. In that case, field personnel might just want a list of all the workflows that are in their court, while executives might want a list of all workflows that have to do with the entire project, right, and where those things fit. Tell a clear story. A report should be easy to follow. They can start with high-level information and then guide users to more specific information by making easy-to-use filter or drill-down options. Highlighting key messages. So like I mentioned before, there's different types of visualizations. You might have bar charts, line charts, pie charts, whatever it is. And those charts, and what you're trying to do when you're creating something is highlight a specific case, right? In this case, in this little chart here, I don't have much information, but you can tell something's going wrong about 1/3 of the way through that chart, right? It's very easy to see that. I don't have a lot of numbers, a lot of lists, a lot of data to look at, but I clearly see that something has happened. Layer the information. Allow users to drill down to make detailed information that provides context and support key messages. Put data that is essential to include but is used by subset of your audience near the end. Those things would be background information, summary statistics, and some information that might not be pertinent to all the users that you're trying to show this information to, but would be for others. Okay, so illustrating your story, again, we want to use charts selectively, and we also want to kind of know the meaning behind a chart, okay? In these two cases, I have these two pictures. I have a simple line chart, and I have a pie chart. Usually line charts are used for tracking information and tracking the change over time, so I can see something starts in January, and we're going through the year, and the red one is going up, the blue one is going down. I don't know what that information in this case means, but I can tell there are trends there. As we have our pie chart, we can see that we're kind of tracking the dark blue there is taking up more than, say, the green. Okay, that might be used in different areas, and once we get into the project team reports and dashboards, I'll actually show you some specific use cases. Finally, the last bullet point is number 6, take advantage of online. Again, we've said this many times. When we're using something online, it is way more flexible than just printing something out and handing it on your desk. I can click into that, I can filter that, I can sort that, all that stuff I can do right on the fly. Okay, cool. So now we are ready for the exciting part, I guess, of the webinar, which is the demo. Okay, so I'm going to close out of this here, and I'm going to close this and get into my project. Okay, let's see here. So I'm looking at my home page here. I have some dashboards on the side, which are not the topic of this demo here, because these things have been existing for a while now. But I am going to click into my projects. I'm actually going to go into one of my projects. I can see some information here showing up, but I also want to show that on the right-hand side, I have this new button called Reports, okay, right next to the project calendar. If I click into Reports, I get to the Report and Dashboard homepage. We have a little blurb here about making your information smarter, okay? So you're putting a lot of information into the system, and like Patrick mentioned in the beginning, there's benefit in putting information into a system, obviously. Everybody does it, whether it's Excel or a project management system that you guys are using, or a project team, or whatever it is. People put data into systems because they want to be able to track, right? No matter what is going on your project, you always want to track that information in case you get into some kind of dispute and you need legal, help to be able to show, your side of the story. But the real value in a system like a project team is not only putting data in, but getting that data out. I want to quickly get reports, dashboards, information out of the system so that I have a clear picture of how my project is doing. On the left-hand side here, or I guess in my screen, I have two kind of main areas. I have this left-hand side, which is showing me all of the different reports that I have access to. Right now, by default, I have one system reports folder. On the right-hand side, I have my report viewer. Okay, right now we're at the home page. I'm not really showing much. It's just kind of showing a home screen here. I do have this support. If you guys need a custom support, a custom report, feel free to contact support, and we will help you out with those things. On the left-hand side, I have this play button. I have a search bar if I want to search for a specific report name. I have a little gear here that will open up if I want to help with my searching. But for now, I'm going to double-click into my system reports and show you I have a list of different document types that, if you're a user, again, you have access to at this point. Each one of these document types does have 3 or 4 different reports and dashboards inside that folder. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into submittals, because submittals are a pretty widely used form type within the system, and kind of show you some of the basics of those reports. If I double click into the submittals folder, I do see I have 4 different reports and a dashboard view. The first thing I'm going to do, because we want to just see a quick summary of information, is double click on the dashboard view, and you'll see that some dashboards are starting to show up here. I have a pie chart, I have some bar graphs, I can scroll down here, I have some stacked information. Each one of these things shows me a pretty good example of what's going on my project. If I run through here, I can see I have my submittals broken up by responsible party. I can see the submittals per ball and court, where is information stuck right now. I see that Mighty Engineering has a lot of stuff to do. Last action taken for submitted, so it looks like I've submitted a lot of things right now. Only 2 of those things have been approved, and then the rest have no action has been taken. So I do need to maybe call my architect up, ask him what the problem is, make sure he's getting into the system, making sure that he's able to get the information that I'm sending over to him, or see what the problem is there. But you can see here that this does give me a very clear view without having to pull up a list of all of my submittals. I just get that one chart. On the right-hand side of that last action taken for submitted, I have due dates, which is just kind of showing me all the due dates of my submittals, status, and then status per responsible party. One of the things that's cool about a stacked bar chart here is, like we said, we want to be interactive with our data. If I don't want to see things that are submitted, maybe in this view it's pretty easy, but if I had 100 different contractors on here, I have a lot of red and yellow and green or whatever it is, I can turn off things like submitted, and I just want to show a view of everything that's not been submitted and where those things stand. So I can see here that American Seating and GTC both have about 3 things that have been not submitted. If I want to turn that back on, I'll just click that filter and it'll grow up for me. I'm going to scroll back to the top here. In this screen, this responsible party, we do have a pie chart here. In some ways, this is kind of nice, but in others, maybe I want to edit this information. There's a lot of data showing up on the sides of my pie chart, which is okay, but it makes the little pie kind of small, and I want to get it bigger. I want to put the legend somewhere else on my chart. If I right-click on that information, not only is it going to pull out a piece of my pie to see specifically maybe this ABC construction company has 17% of things of my submittals, but I can also right-click, take the legend, and put it right on the bottom. Now my pie has grown. I can see that information at the bottom. Kind of a nice to have if you want to change that information. Since we have a lot of things and maybe my colors are repeating, I want to change that. I could always change my theme and change the color scheme of my different dashboards if I want, again, by right-clicking and showing that information. If for whatever reason I want to rotate this thing, I want to put the legend back inside the pie there, I can rotate these things and show that information is still connected to that pie chart. I'm going to put this thing back to the default Crayola scheme because that's my favorite. And then I'm going to actually right-click this thing. I don't like the pie. I'm going to change that to a bar chart. So I can click that, and it gives me kind of a clearer view. This view kind of makes more sense to me showing up on this screen. Alrighty. The next thing that I want to do is show you that if I hover over any of these things, I can always export. So I do have these different graphs that I could export. For example, if I want to bring that over to PDF, that would pull up that chart in a PDF viewer. And then if I want to, I can include that in some kind of report that I have. It does give me kind of a nice picture. I could pull that into any of my other reports. I could put that into a graph, another report, things like that. I'm going to close out of that for now. Alrighty. The next thing I want to do, so I've kind of looked at one of these submittal dashboards. We have dashboards for all of our information. Okay, specifications, project directory, payment applications. There's different dashboards that we can create for any information that I put into the system. For now, what I want to do is I want to run an actual report. So I'm going to double click on the report. We just looked at a dashboard. It gives me a quick list of a quick view of information. Now we're going to run a report that gives me a full list of that information. Here you can see I have a lot of information showing up on my form. I have multiple pages. If I want to get from page to page in this report viewer, so what happens is once I run a report, it's pulling that thing up in a report viewer. Okay, this is not ready to print yet. I still need to tell it what output I have. If I change on this right-hand side, I can click these arrows that'll give me to multiple pages. Here it gives me some summary information like we talked about at the bottom of the report that makes it easy for me to kind of see some of those statistics. I'm going to go back to the front page here. One of the nice things with like I mentioned, with an online report, we have this thing out of the box. It shows a lot of information. So we have a ball and court, which it's sorted on. Okay, we're grouping by our ball and court. We have item number, subject, responsible party, due date, days overdue, status, submitted date, and last action. There's different things. Like right now I can see that maybe I don't really care about the responsible party. I'm just interested in ball and court. I don't really care about the responsible party. I really don't care for whatever reason about the due date. Okay, I want to get that information out of here. Okay, before I print this thing. Next to this left-hand navigation pane, I do have another little white pane here that I can click on, which will open up my different filters, sorts, and columns. Like I said, I'm not interested in responsible party, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Okay, my report is going to change based on the columns that I've just added. If I scroll up to the bottom, up to the top, I can see those columns also showing up at the top of my report. I also said I don't really care about due date, so I'm going to turn that off as well. Now I have a very simple report that is just showing me the item number, subject, and some other information grouped by my ball and court. Okay? If I want, I can take this thing, I can export it out, and my different options here are Excel, PDF, rich text, and CSV if I want to upload that into some other system. But for now, I'm just going to export that thing to PDF. I'm going to export, and then here we go. This is a nice view of all of my submittals. I have 28 of those submittals. I took away a couple of those columns, makes my report look a little cleaner, and I'm ready to, say, print that thing. So I'll click up on the top, just give me a print view, and then I can print that out to my printer. I could also save that to my desktop by clicking the Save button here. I'm going to close this PDF view for now. The next thing that I want to do is I have too much information, and I have a lot of these submittals that are showing a ball and court of nothing. I don't know what's going on there. I actually want to get rid of those things. So I'm going to add a filter to this submittal report. To do that, I'm going to click the plus sign next to my filters. It's going to give me a list of different filters that I can use. I'm going to click on the ball and court filter. And it's going to show me all of the different options I have on my submittal report. I'm going to say only Mighty Engineering do I want to look at, and then close that filter pane. Now I can see this submittal view is only showing me things that have to do with the ball and court of Mighty Engineering. Again, I can print that thing out to Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF, whatever I want to do. I'm going to close those two things. We looked at that dashboard. I'll keep that up for now in the case we get questions later. The next very common report that is asked about is my project directory. In project directory, obviously you are tracking different information. You have company information, you have the project role, what a company is actually doing on a project. You have contacts at that company, and you might also have phone numbers, email addresses, fax numbers, and even addresses of that company. In ProjectTeam, you can track all that information. If I double-click this project directory, I can see all of my different contractors, what their project role is. So I have my contractors, my door subcontractors, my flooring subcontractors, my general contractors, etc. I have multiple pages of this information. But not only do I have that, if I go to, let's say, my company here, I also would have information about those addresses. So let's go to ABC Construction here. ABC Construction, I don't have an address right now. I'm actually going to go over to my project directory, click into ABC Construction, go into my addresses tab. I don't have any addresses right now, but I'm going to go ahead and add a new one. This company actually does have an existing address that I've kept before, so I'm going to go ahead and add it. So I'm going to add that existing building address. I could change that address type to whatever we want, but for now I'll just call it building. Actually, let's call this the main headquarters. Main headquarters, and save that. Okay. Now I have a main headquarters address associated with my ABC Construction company. I'm going to go back to reports, open up my project directory report, group that thing by project role. Then I'm going to go back to the ABC Construction. If I scroll down now, I do have that address information showing up on my report. I could also do the same thing with work, cell, fax numbers of all of these different people. And like we showed before, if people aren't using faxes anymore, I can turn faxes off and just show their phone numbers and their emails. As always, we will be able to export any of that information out to our different options here. Another simple report would just be running your project directory by first name. This does not group those different companies by their project role, but it does give me a pretty good idea of all the different people that are on my project, what their job title is, etc. All right, so those are some pretty simple reports. We talked about submittals, we talked about project directory. Let's actually get into a payment application. A payment application, a very common report that might be run is the detailed view of a payout. So I'm going to actually click on this, and you'll see that before the report actually runs, I do have kind of a prompt here that's asking me for different filters. I want to run a detailed view with my cover sheet of a payout specific to some information that I have in the system, and it's going to ask me for a couple of criteria here. First, the contract. I'm going to say I'm going to run this thing for my general construction contract, and I'm going to run it off of my application number 001. Once I get those filter criteria in, I can run the report. Opposite to what we kind of talked about before, where we have a report of a lot of different information showing up in one report, we could also run reports off of a singular form. So here I have a singular application for payment. It's showing me in a typical view here some information. I have multiple pages of what's going on. I know this shows up on a different line, but once we see that when I export it, it will show up on one line. But I can go through and I see the whole item breakdown, etc. showing up. If I do want to, I can go ahead and export that to PDF. And it's going to show up here, and it gives me a nice view. It gives me everything on one page, and then on my second page, I do start to have my item breakdown. I can scroll all the way to the bottom. Okay, I have multiple pages here, and I can see a total percent complete that I have on this project depending on what my items are. Lastly, let's go over to the action items. So I'm going to open up action items, and I'm going to click on the first log view of these action items. It's going to open up a list of all my different action items showing up on this project. Right now, I see that I haven't been, or my users haven't been taking or tracking notes on these things. So I'm actually, like we did before, going to turn off that column and just show the action items with the subject and the document reference, the due date, and then the days overdue. Right now, this information is showing up in kind of a monotone kind of look. We have black, we have grays, and we have whites. If on these system forms, if we want to make a quick change to some of this ad hoc reporting that we talked about before, I could always right-click on any of that information, and it's going to give me some different formatting options. For now, say my main company colors are orange. I can click on the background color. I'm actually going to make that thing orange. It's going to make all of the similar rows to the information that I changed that same color. I also want to make the header orange, so I'm going to click on that, change the text information to orange. Anything that you do on the project or inside of ProjectTeam is also going to carry through whenever you export that information. We've been exporting a lot to, say, PDF so far, but if we click on this little export button, and let's get it out to Microsoft Excel, it'll execute that and give me an Excel document. I can pull that thing up, and you'll see that I still have those orange colors or whatever I want to show there showing up in this export view. Okay, I'm going to close that. If I do make changes like that, but I don't like what I did, maybe I accidentally clicked on something and let's see here, maybe I clicked on something and I changed the font to something goofy, like, I don't know, Comic Sans or something like that. I don't like what I did right there. I wasn't sure what it was to start with. I can actually click on this X button to clear all my different styling changes, and it'll go back to the beginning. Okay, I got my notes back in the columns. I got the black and the grays showing up again. Okay. Alrighty. So that's really all I wanted to go through on the report side. Okay. I think we're still on time here. It's about 3:40. I'm going to turn it back over to Patrick for now, and we can finish off some of this information.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. We do have a couple questions that came up during the course of that overview of the reporting and dashboard section of ProjectTeam. So the first question I see here is, are the reports going to be available on the mobile devices within ProjectTeam?
That's a really good question, Pat. The answer is yes. So let's go back over here. Everything that we have in ProjectTeam is responsive. So we put, when we're developing the system, everything that we do, we take into account people are using mobile devices, they're using their computers, they're using tablets, they have different mediums that they want to have information on. If I take my system down, I can see that in this case, this is just kind of a PDF view of my report, so it's not kind of shrinking here, but you will see that no matter what size my device is, I do have access to this reporting area. I can grow my screen back to a larger view, and that information is still showing up. So the answer is yes, no matter what device you have, you will be able to access your reports in your dashboards.
Great. Another question here, can you filter out completed action items?
Yeah, so let's see here. If I go, one of the system forms that we have is sorted by complete date. So one of the things that we have in our system view right now, and once we get into, if you have a specific custom report that you want to create, we're happy to kind of help you through those things and kind of give you a timeline of when we can get those things out. But if you're using our system reports, there are different things that you can do. I think one of our system reports here is sorted by complete date. So this one, we actually don't have any in this project that are complete. But we can show things that are complete on top and then have the things that are not complete showing up on the bottom. We also have detail views. So similar to what we looked at in the payment application where we were looking at a single form, a single pay app, if I want to look at all of my action items filtered by not complete, but I want to see the full form view of that, I can show that here, okay? And I can scroll through all of my different action items filtered by not complete, so these are all showing up. If I want to see the detailed view of sorted by subject, I actually do have a complete field showing up. So there are different things that you can do with reports. That is all just going to depend on what your criteria is. Again, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. Think about the reports, think about the audience that you're trying to get this in. Whatever information, as long as you're keeping that information in the system, we can create some pretty cool reports off of that.
Okay, great. And you just kind of answered one of the other questions, Josh. It was, can I create a report based on custom fields and custom forms that I create?
That's another really good question. So our first release here of reports is all about our system documents and system forms, system fields, okay? If you have custom fields and custom forms that you want to start to report off of, that'll be included in our next release, which is coming up very soon. Again, we try to release kind of every 2 to 3 weeks here. So if you have something, what I would recommend is we start to talk about that And by the time we have that all figured out, I'm sure we could get a report in there. And again, that doesn't take very long. But that's kind of why, if we go back to the Getting Started page, if you have a custom report right now, I'd recommend you contact support. We'll kind of detail that, get those things in, get those things defined, kind of make a mock-up of that information so we know that this is really the information that we want to track, and then we'll be able to get that in. Once we do have custom reports in there, you'll be able to literally create a custom form using whatever fields that you want. And I didn't really go over in ProjectTeam right now creating custom fields, but it's very easy to do that. You can create any custom form or custom fields that you want on any existing form, and then pull those things into things like reports and dashboards.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions here, Josh. One is, can the reports have the user's report settings saved? The specific views using one report as the base.
Yeah, so right now in our reports we have kind of our system reports, but again, once we have those customizations, you'll be able to not only duplicate any of our system reports and save those things, you'll also be able to save any report that you have. So no matter what it is, whatever colors or filters or sorts or options that you have, you will be able to save those, and then you'll be able to put those into different folders. Right now I'm kind of working off the system folder, so this is consistent to everybody in the system. But if you had, what you'll have is kind of a personal folder, so you can keep your own personal reports. You'll have kind of a company or even a project folder, where if there's a common report that you want to kind of collaborate with for everybody on your project or everybody at your company on the project, you'll be able to do that. So the answer is yes, you'll be able to save those things.
Okay, great. And two more questions, Josh. As you start your project, can you have a dashboard screen that combines a few items together, like RFIs, submittals, action items, etc.? Yeah,
so reports are not limited to a single form type. What you can do is again, it's just defining what we really want here, but you can group a lot of different things together in a dashboard view. And then what's really nice is you can even, for the reporting side, you can create something called a chain report. So I might want to see all of the RFIs, all of the submittals, all of the whatever it is, field reports that are required from contractor ABC. I can chain all of those reports together, so that way if I print it, it gives me a list in one flat list of all of those things. I don't need to print 3 different reports at a time.
Perfect. Last question here I see. Auto-scheduled distribution of report is to be auto-emailed out? Question?
Yes. Yeah, so what will happen is you can create you'll create a report, and then you'll be able to define a schedule for that report. So what will happen is you'll say, I have, again, I think my example was like a submittal, drawings or RFIs. I can say I want all of my drawings or my RFIs that are overdue, something like that, to be sent to my architect every day at 9 a.m. or every let's say week at 9 a.m. every Monday, because I go into a meeting with my architect at 10. I want him to get that report so we can bring that into our meeting and discuss. I don't literally need to go into ProjectTeam every day or every Monday to send that. I could just set up that scheduled report, and it'll automatically go to a specified email address without, I set that up once and it continues to go. And what's really nice in the scheduler is, say my project is 8 months long. I have a short little project, or maybe I have a really long project. You can set a timeline for that. So I can say it starts at today, or it starts this week, and it ends 9 weeks from now. After that, I don't want that report to be continuing to just go out. So you can kind of set those timelines up that way.
All right, perfect. And one more just came in. We have time to answer this. And it is there a system report that shows who is using what reports regarding the usage, as in reports?
Track who asked that question. We'll follow up on that to get specifics. Okay. Right now, I see.
Is there a system report that shows who?
Yeah, I get what he's saying. So any data that we have in the system, we can create a report off of. We just need to define what the needs are for that report. So yeah, so if we have some kind of report that we want to track, what type of users, just like our workflows and action items, we want to track, who's been doing things with what reports. As long as we have that data in the system, we can create reports off of that information. want to open my email back or this up, and you can finish out, Patrick.
Great. Yep. So that is about the 45-minute mark. And again, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to sit in on the demo, or the webinar, I should say. If you do want to set up a demo, we are more than happy to do that. You can contact sales@projectteam.com, and I'll be more than happy to set that up with you. Or if you are already an existing subscriber and you have a specific use case, please feel free to contact support@projectteam.com. And again, this webinar has been recorded, and we're going to upload that to our website and YouTube. And any other questions you have, feel free to email either one of those lines, and we will talk to you then. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for attending.